Hello, welcome to day 2 at Taunton. We had a not particularly eventful day yesterday in some ways. Who do we think won day 1, Syd?
Well, what was it that Anya said to you afterwards, Raf? She said the match was evenly poised, I believe. I think that was really optimistic. I think that Australia definitely had the better of the day. They were in the position to have the better of the day. It was, definitely a situation where you wanted to bat, and Australia made the most of that. And I think it's difficult to see that as being anything other than a 3 or 4-0 victory to Australia.
I mean, obviously England did have a bit of bad luck, didn't they? Heather Knight dropping that catch close in could have dismissed Meg Lanning on 26, and there was an LBW shout that should really have gone in Sophie Eccleston's favour, at least one anyway. That was definitely on the replay was seen to be hitting leg stump. So possibly England a bit unlucky, and obviously the toss is complete luck as well. But yeah, it does seem to have pretty much gone Australia's way so far. In terms of team selection, we broadly got it right, although the one thing that we did get wrong was we thought that they'd play Kate Cross, and they didn't. They went with Laura Marsh instead. They went with the extra spin option. Bit surprised about that?
Well, I was a little bit. I think you feel that Laura Marsh is a little bit more of a containing player, a little bit less of an attacking player. I mean, I'm sure that I know some people would dispute that. Probably she would dispute it, but I feel that's the case. And I think there would have been a little bit more attack with Kate Cross. On the other hand, a very good friend of mine said to me yesterday evening. He said, "Look, Syd, while you have a case, if they picked Kate Cross, exactly the same thing would have happened. Kate Cross wasn't going to suddenly come in and make 99% of difference, and suddenly they were going to be 8 or 9 down at the close. So, it's not the selection I would have made, but whether it really would have made any difference is arguable."
Okay, interesting. Something that I thought was a little bit surprising, given all of Australia's talk about how they really are very keen to win this match ahead of time, despite the fact that they only need to draw the game to win the Ashes, is that they didn't kind of come out in the third session, in the evening session, all guns blazing with the bat. In fact, they almost to some extent shut up shop a bit, and they were just content to sort of poodle it round and run the odd single, and quite conservative really batting. There wasn't ever seemingly any intent, which is what I think they should have done, to make an aggressive declaration and maybe an hour, 45 minutes before close of play, put England in for a tricky period on the first evening. That would have been the thing that really, if they are looking to win this game, I think they should have done, given that we know that there's likely to be some delays today because of the weather. It is just starting to slightly come down a little bit, some drizzle, isn't it? We can just feel it starting to come down.
Yeah, it's supposed to get gradually worse this morning, and it's definitely drizzling a little bit more now than it was when we started making this video 3 minutes ago. But I do think that that you have a reasonable point, but there's also been some comeback to you, hasn't there, on Twitter and things, particularly from the Australian contingent, pointing out that these are professional athletes. It's their job to win the match, and it's always a dilemma in professional sport, isn't it? Is your job just to win the game, or is it to entertain the public? And do you entertain the public purely by winning the game? I just think it is interesting that Elise Perry was telling us a week ago that they had a duty to entertain, and they had a responsibility to the future of women's Test cricket to make this a really positive experience for the fans. And the last session yesterday evening was quite slow.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think personally that it's how they should have been approaching the game, because if you're going to say one thing, then play like that. Don't do something completely different. I mean, fair enough, people pointing out that a draw is good enough for Australia, but from my perspective, I do think they've got a little bit of a responsibility to the Test match format, actually, and that piece by Hypercourse did seem to show that the way that you win a women's Test match, a four-day Test match, is an attacking declaration. Doesn't look like we're going to be seeing that. What do we think that we might see today then, Syd? On the strength of that, I'm not convinced that, assuming that it does start on time, I'm not convinced that we're going to see an overnight declaration from Australia. What do you reckon?
I don't think we'll see an overnight declaration. I think they'll come back out. I think that Rachel Haynes did kind of hint last night that they might come out with a little bit more intent, but on the other hand, that's what they were saying before. I think that they'll want to put a lot more runs on the board and really put this game utterly beyond England's reach before they'll give England even a sniff at it. And I think that's what we're going to see today. We're going to see Australia try and put another 150 on the board before anything vaguely interesting happens.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. So in that respect, we are likely to see another Test century from Elise Perry and potentially a maiden Test century from Rachel Haynes, given that seems to be the rather conservative way that Australia are approaching the game. There may also be some rain around, but hopefully not. As Anya Shrubsole said yesterday, you can't trust an English weather forecast. So let's wait and see.